Hey, I'm Harrison. I'm the founder of the Fractional Incubator, where we've helped hundreds of executives secure millions of dollars in fractional engagements over the last couple of years. Today, we're going to talk about the 4 big things that determine whether or not your background can support a fractional practice in the first place. So I'm going to show you the recipe. I'm going to show you if I could create a recipe of the best possible traits and attributes, if I could create the perfect fractional executive in a lab, these are the ingredients I would include. This is exactly what I would design. So if you watch this and you say, "Oh yeah, this all makes sense. All these ingredients apply to me," then there's a really good chance that you could build a successful practice doing the stuff that we teach inside our program, the Fractional Incubator. But if you hear this and you're like, "Actually, no, none of this is me. This doesn't apply to me." Well, that's fine too. It's probably a good thing in the end, because building one of these practices is not for everyone, not for a long shot. And so maybe this video could save you a bunch of time and a bunch of trouble. Okay, so let's get into it. The 4 most important things that determine if you have what it takes, if you can have success as a fractional. Thing number one, how good are you? Period. And arguably the most important thing on this list, just purely, what have you achieved? How big are the results that you've driven over the course of your career? How good are your chops in your area of expertise? And this trumps so many of the other things on this list, because at the end of the day, this is what companies want. Companies want results. And if you've driven results, and we're talking big, real, measurable results that you owned at your previous stops as a W-2 or as an employee, that's what companies buy, and that's what they pay real, serious, fractional money for as well. And the example I always give is, imagine that you are a business owner, and Warren Buffett wants to be your CFO. Warren Buffett knocks on your door and wants to be your CFO. You would probably say, "All right, sure. Where do I sign? Where do you sign? How much do you want, Warren Buffett?" Now, obviously, that's an extreme example, but it illustrates the point. If expertise and skill is on a spectrum, and guys like Warren Buffett are at the extreme end of the spectrum, then the closer you are to that extreme end, the easier it's going to be for you to sign engagements. Whereas if you look at the other end of the extreme, imagine you're a business owner and you meet a 25-year-old who's straight out of business school and they want to be your fractional CFO, you're probably going to pass. Or at the very least, you're going to be so unwilling to pay real money for them, for this unproven person, that the deal wouldn't be worth it to them in the first place. Another example, take marketing. Marketing is another example. So if you're a CMO and you can talk about how at your last company you grew top line by 100% in 2 years, so 25 million to 50 million, you doubled the company through, let's say you can talk about how you did it through a channel partner program that you built, and through a 50% increase in marketing qualified leads via the digital advertising program that you designed and that you implemented. Well, if you can say all that, do you think that there are other companies who would want that same type of outcome? Of course there are. And so all you have to do is literally go tell companies, "Hey, at my last company, I doubled top line from 25 to 50 million through a channel partner, through MQLs, through a digital advertising program that I built." If you can tell that story, if you are really, really good, they will say yes to the conversation with you, and you have a chance to turn them into an engagement. Versus the other end of the extreme for that example, if you're a marketer and your career has totally been around individual contribution, like you're executing other people's playbooks, or you've executed around some facet that you can't clearly tie to true top line or bottom line growth, it's going to be really hard for you to generate conversations to get fractional deals done in the first place. You're not going to have a hook to get their attention. And even when you do get it, you're not going to have real results to point back to that will de-risk the deal for the business owner enough for them to take the deal seriously. So that's thing number 1. And most important thing on the list is just simply, how good are you? How good are you? It's the most important thing, I'd say, by a long shot. And this is coming from me stewarding hundreds of clients and hundreds of deals over the last several years. The more proof that you have, the easier it is to get in the door, to the point where if your proof is good enough, people will literally be knocking on your door to meet you. But if you don't have any serious proof that you can point to, you're going to be playing an uphill game. All right, thing number 1, how good are you? How good are you? Thing number 2, ingredient number 2 in our elite fractional operator recipe is your background, your career background. So for this one, we've all heard of fractional COOs, fractional CFOs, fractional CMOs, fractional sales leaders. We've all, I think if you're watching this, you've heard of that kind of stuff. But I talk to people every day who don't fit neatly into any one of these particular buckets. Or maybe their skill set is a subset of one of the buckets, or it straddles multiple buckets. Regardless, one of the most common questions that I get is, will this work for me and my specific background? So maybe I don't know what you are, what your background is, if it's HR, customer success, procurement, whatever else. And I get this question, they always want to know, what about me? Will this work for me and my specific skill set and my specific background? And to those people who ask that question, I always say the same thing. I say, you're asking the wrong question. Will this work for my background is the wrong question. The right question is this. Here's the right question. It's not, will this work for me and my background? The correct question is, how do you make or save a company money? Period. That's the right question. In other words, how do you drive new top line or new bottom line for a company? That is the most important question. And if you can answer that question easily, for example, see rule thing number 1 a minute ago, how good are you? If you can clearly say, for example, well, I'm an HR pro. Under my leadership, we reduced turnover from 10% to 5%, which represented a $1.6 million annual savings in employee replacement costs when you divide that between ramp time and search fees. If you can say something like that, well, if I'm a business owner, all of a sudden I'm listening. Oh, that makes sense. You seriously impacted your skills, seriously impacted the health of the business. And to make this even more precise, you have to be able to quantify the addition to top line or bottom line. It's not enough to just say, yeah, we went up. More money is good, right? You have to be able to assign real dollars to it. So in the customer success example, if you can say, yeah, in my last company or at my current company, whatever, I reduced churn by 40% in 16 months, which a long way increased our average customer lifetime value by $14,000, which grew revenue by $4 million annually. That's great. You can do this. People will buy that. But if you can't say that, and instead all you can say is, yeah, I've got a philosophy or a system for customer service, or I tagged all of our customers and gave us tons more data on our customers, or we increased our understanding of customers through a survey program that I implemented. If that's the kind of stuff you're going to say, you're going to bring to the table, you're going to have a much harder time. It sounds cynical, but it's true. And this is just from experience. The business owners want to know, show me the money. That's what they want. That's what every business owner wants to see. They want to see the money. And if you can't show it, it's going to be a much tougher road for you. So to sum it up, this thing number 2, your background, your function, really your background, your area of expertise doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. We've seen this work for every function under the sun. We've got payment processing, pharma commercialization, data analytics. We have a guy selling farm equipment fractionally right now. But the one thing that they all have in common, they were all able to tie their skill set and their actions to new top line or new bottom line for the companies that they serve. Period. And a quick bonus tip here that'll really put building your fractional portfolio, really put it on easy mode. Adding top line and bottom line, so really increasing net profit, is great. You need to be able to show that. But if you can do that while at the same time decreasing what we call net complexity for the business, specifically the net complexity for the person signing your check, typically the business owner, if you can do that too, now you're really cooking. So if you can make their life easier and give them more time back while increasing net profit for the business, that's a dream scenario. And often that reducing net operational complexity piece, the reducing the time and the effort and the difficulty of the business, oftentimes that's even more important than the top line and the bottom line that you add. But that is getting too deep in the weeds for this video. It's a subject for another video. For now, suffice it to say, show the money. If you can show the money, your background and your function, what your unique niche background is, doesn't matter. If you can be profitable for the company and if you can reduce net complexity for the company, you have a fractional practice within you. All right, ingredient number 3. Next, mentality. And this I also don't want to get too in the weeds on. But there's a few really important mental models, mentalities that all of our most successful fractionals have in our program, and I see it broadly across the category. So first, they see fractional for what it is, meaning they don't enter into this building their portfolio, which is what they're doing. They don't enter into that thinking that they are building out some immense scaled out business. They are right-sizing the decision of whether or not to try this in the first place. And the only decision that you have to make when you're deciding if you want to, quote, go fractional, assuming you check the boxes above, then the only decision left to make is, do I want to learn a new way to go and get work in addition to the traditional way that I've gotten work in the past? I'll say it again. The only decision you have to make is, do I want to learn a new way to get work? I already know how to get work as a traditional W-2 employee. Now do I want to learn how to get work as a non-exclusive contractor, as a fractional? So you're going into it knowing that by deciding to, quote, go fractional, you're giving yourself more options, not less. You are not changing the trajectory of your career forever. You're not removing any future options from yourself. Analogy I always give is, imagine you're like a farmer. You're a farmer and you know how to grow food on your farm. You've been doing that for 20 years. That's great. Which in our example, it's the equivalent of, you know how to get W-2 work. You've been doing it for 20 years. That's great. But what happens if there's a drought, or your crops get sick, or there's some emergency on your farm one year and the crops don't grow and you can't harvest them? How are you going to eat then? Well, wouldn't it also be great, in addition to knowing how to farm, if you knew how to hunt? Wouldn't that be nice? But now you have multiple ways to eat instead of just the one, and that's the right way to think about building your practice. You have multiple ways to go out and get work and get paid by companies for delivering real, measurable value for them instead of just the one. Another important mental model that we talk about all the time is, don't think about this as you're going out and you're selling yourself. I hear that all the time from people. I got to learn how to sell myself. That's so wrong. First, you're barely selling anything at all. And you certainly are not selling yourself. If you think about you're going to make, if you think about it as if you are selling yourself, the reason I counsel so far against this is it's going to make you make a ton of poor decisions during your outreach process. Instead, don't think about it like selling at all. Selling is a tiny component of what you're doing. What you're actually doing is you're creating deals. And you aren't selling yourself, you're creating deals that drive the outcome that you are capable of delivering. And yes, you are the asset at the end of the day, but people only buy that asset if they believe it comes with a great outcome. I'm not going to pay Warren Buffett to sit around and count paper clips in my basement all day just because he's Warren Buffett. I'd pay him because I know exactly what kind of value he could bring to my company. He'll make me way more money than I pay him. That's why I would value him. And you're framing your deals in the same way. Frame it in outcomes. Create terms of engagement. Make it low risk for the company. Have some levers that you're willing to negotiate on. And that is how you get these deals done. Okay, that's enough on the mentality. I could do a whole video on this stuff because it's really, really important. But that's enough for now. The last important factor that will determine if you're going to have a simple time or a terrible time building your practice is this. And that last ingredient, that last factor, is your lifestyle needs. Your lifestyle needs. And specifically, we're going to talk about your lifestyle needs around time, income, and location. And we'll do time first. So time first. Building your practice requires, frankly, is what people don't want to hear. It requires robust business development in the form of prospecting and messaging. What always happens is people will start and they'll go through their personal network, and that's great. You should do that. You 100% should do that. You should be adding to your personal network for the rest of your life. But what happens is eventually that personal network runs out, which means you need to have a way to do robust business development outside of the people that already know you from working with you or from your life in some other way. And in the incubator, we do all of that robust business development for you. So you just show up to the deal calls. But if you don't have us, and then you don't also have a couple hours per day to devote to this type of thing, the work that we would normally do for you, then it's going to be really tough for you to do sufficient volume in growing and sustaining your practice. All right, so time. The second lifestyle need is income. And this one, if you need to replace your $300,000 salary in the next 45 days through fractional engagements, that's going to be tough, frankly. That's going to be tough to do fractionally. I've seen it happen. We've had people do it in our program, but it's also not by any means a typical result. And again, if you need that type of result in that type of time frame, that could lead to more bad decision making if you're coming from a place of almost desperation. Now, if over the course of 6 to 12 months, provided you check all the boxes above, then that outcome is totally reasonable. But is it reasonable tomorrow? No. And it's especially unreasonable if you aren't dedicating the time or outsourcing it to us or someone like us for the business development side of things that we just talked about a second ago. Finally, the last lifestyle need that is our ingredients for what makes someone able to do this is location. Location needs. So if delivering your genius, the thing that will get the outcome that we've been talking about, the thing that makes you so good, if delivering that requires you to be on site for a business, which is actually rare, but sometimes, sure, I guess it's required, and then you're not willing to travel, well, then you shouldn't do this. You should do this. Nearly every single one of the deals our members close are remote, which means you need to be able to deliver the outcome remotely or at least with extremely minimal travel, like we're talking a day or two on site per quarter, half a week per quarter, something like that. But if you can't do that, you're going to be limited to your immediate area, your immediate civic area, unless you're willing to travel, which if you are, more power to you. But if you're not willing to travel, and you must be on site, that's going to significantly reduce your TAM, the addressable market that you have access to, which makes it difficult to sustain a practice in the long run. All right. So how did you stack up? Did you check our boxes? Are you good? Are you really, really good? Can you deliver outcomes in real dollars? Putting your special, unique skill set aside, can you just deliver dollars and reduce complexity? Can you see this through the simple lens of, hey, I'm just learning a new way to get work. I'm not building some immense business changing my corporate identity forever. If so, you really can do this. This can work for you. In fact, I'd go so far as to say if all those things are true, then this is the perfect thing for you to be doing, for you to be considering. So if you want our help with it, you can click the button below and send me a DM on LinkedIn. Regardless, if you like the content, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.